All right, we are going to move into a discussion of how we can support survivors intentionally during this time. We have compiled a list here of different ways that we can show support to our survivors and communicate in a trauma-informed way in online platforms, whether that be online meetings that you are present in or hosting or facilitating where students are present, or of course in the classroom, virtual classroom setting. It can be helpful to name resources, whether that be in the syllabi or verbally, taking some intentional time to state that the Safe Office is available and what national resources are available. That can, one, provide students with those resources and state that you are honoring that these are important issues and that you are there for students if they want to come to you with questions or for direction on what they can do if they are needing assistance. It can also be helpful to name the option for students to leave the virtual space if triggered or if needing a few moments to engage in self-care or regulate their emotions, and also naming the option to rejoin the meeting. It can kind of feel strange to leave a virtual space and then rejoin. And so if we can name that off the bat, that it is okay to leave and come back, it can help students um, to take care of themselves well during this time. That ties right in on empowering students with choices in the virtual platform. That can go from giving students options with turning their video off if needed, or chatting in the chat box if they do not want to unmute themselves. Other choices could be do you have any ideas, Bethany? I'm blanking.
Yeah, I think this one's particularly difficult because, right now the only access that we have to students and really most people in our lives is through our computer and through our phone. And so just in general, something that we offer as guidance for when working with survivors is empowering their choice, right? And so in-person settings, we can offer things like having water available and around. Do you want the door open? Do you want the door closed? And then when the physical environment is taken out of that, we have to try to translate those things to the computer. So when you break down the computer at a very base level, I think, just stating it's okay to have your video off. I know that probably for a lot of folks that might be something that you don't want to do or can be difficult to say, especially when you're trying to have an engaging classroom setting. But I think being able to name that and say that the student won't be penalized, especially when you think about the fact that maybe they are in a home space where they feel unsafe physically or emotionally, it can be a huge supportive thing just to name it's okay to turn your video off. It's okay to turn your mic off. It's okay to turn it off and turn it back on throughout this meeting. Offering the chat box as a way to engage and just naming that as a very real option. I think that can go a really long way with students as we're thinking about ways that you can engage, because we are all adjusting to what it means to be able to support each other through online platforms.
Yeah, thank you, Bethany. That is so true. We want to give students their autonomy back, especially our student survivors who had that autonomy taken from them. Some other choices that came to mind are options for how they can contact you. Maybe that's offering that you will jump on the virtual platform a few minutes early, as well as stay on the platform a few minutes after each session so that students know they have that time, or options to email, or different ways to schedule with you. So if they are looking to connect, that there's options for ways that they can do that. And then we also think it can be really important to offer or explicitly and intentionally state structure and what students can expect in the virtual setting with you. So whether that be sort of a timeline, maybe that for the first 15 minutes, we're going to cover this, the second 30 minutes will be a lecture, the next 15 will be a small group, so that students can have in mind what they can expect for the virtual time. And that can also help with if a student is feeling like during a certain section they are going to need to step away from the computer or take care of themselves, they can have an idea of when they can jump back in the virtual platform in more of a natural way when they know there might be a break. That can be another great thing to share with students, is specifically when there's going to be maybe a 5-minute break if it's a longer virtual meeting or class session. Both the choices and offering the structure and expectation can increase that sense of control for students, our student survivors, and ultimately work towards, by increasing that sense of control, we can ultimately work towards decreasing stress and other sort of trauma symptoms. And then we just also recommend building in that space for intentional rapport building. It can be hard over the virtual platform, especially when it is going to be group settings where you're meeting these students. So again, kind of going back to the different choices you can offer, but just stating ways that students can get in contact with you one-on-one in different formats can go a long way for sending the message that you want to be there for students and you want to offer them resources and offer them assistance throughout your time together. Anything else to add to this, Bethany?
Yeah, and I just also think it's important to mention increased flexibility. You know, I know everybody has their own needs in terms of how their classes need to be structured and their grades need to be done. But just as much increased flexibility as possible can really go a long way with students, especially when, you know, normally there's a lot that can, there's a lot that can vary right now for students in terms of what they're experiencing. And so when we think about this specifically in the context of survivors and students who generally might feel unsafe, and then when we take that into context, if you watched the second module of what increased barriers look like right now, and then, you know, we talked a little bit in the first module about what it means for Black students and students of marginalized identities in general to be dealing with multiple crises in our world right now, and how that can heighten trauma symptoms, and how access to resources and support can, you know, potentially help be a supportive factor, right? And so, yeah, back to this point of flexibility, I think offering as much flexibility as possible is really important, because we don't know what someone is dealing with. And when we think about the fact that someone might be dealing with not one, but two, but three, but four crises going on in their life, and all of these different various barriers that we've talked about, just being as flexible and supportive as you can be with them, because for a lot of our survivors, in ongoing unsafe and abusive spaces, they might be becoming more and more isolated from those around them. And so the more supportive you can continue to be, and the more you can continue to offer yourself as someone who they, you know, feel safe even approaching, even if it's not about the abuse they're experiencing, right? That doesn't have to be what it's about, but just a person who is safe and they feel trusting to go to ask for an extension on an assignment, that can go a really long way, because they might, you know, it might be the only supportive person that they've talked to all week.
Yeah, that's all great points. It was coming to mind when you were talking that it's kind of like striking the balance of being reliable, consistent, and also having space for flexibility when students are needing that during this time, especially our student survivors. We wanted to highlight a few resources that can be helpful to offer students, especially now while our students are spread across the United States. We have found this first link here to be very thorough. It is from the the North Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And it has an extensive list of both North Carolina national and domestic violence specific resources. We also recommend the RAIN National Sexual Assault Hotline and the website because it does have a confidential virtual chat option to access help, which can be a great option for students who might not want to verbalize over the phone with someone what they may be going through. And RAIN does a nice job of connecting students or survivors who call in with local options. So that can be really valuable right now while students may be spread out in different locations. And then third here, we have the Love is Respect organization's interactive safety plan, which can also be a valuable resource because it can walk students through ways to gain or increase safety in their life or explore different options or removing themselves from unsafe or abusive situations in the virtual platform. So again, it can be a space instead of having to verbalize with someone over the phone, they can access different resources and explore different options in the virtual platform or on the website platform. We will have these slides posted on our websites or on our Safe Office website, so you can access these links directly. And feel free to reach out to us at the Safe Office for any other specific resources, or if there's anything we can talk through in that can help you in helping our students. And of course, you can always direct your students to us as well. This is just a quote to remind us that empathy and understanding go a long way in supporting our survivors. And we really appreciate your intentionality behind wanting to watch these webinars and support our students and our student survivors in a trauma-informed way. Again, here's our contact information. You can reach both of us through the SAFE at wfu.edu email. You can share this email with students who want to access help. We can respond within 24 hours, within one business day. And then that is our helpline number again, where we can also respond within one business day over the summer. And it is a 24/7 access line during the regular school year. Anything to add, Bethany, before we close out?
Yeah, just thanks again so much for watching and taking the time to learn a little bit more about this. We would be happy to continue to connect. And again, we are a confidential resource. We are continuing to meet with students right now. So if you have students that are needing support, please direct them to us. And yeah, for any follow-up questions or concerns, feel free to reach out. All of these resources will be posted on the website. Thank you.
And same for any, sorry, Bethany had another thought. And if any faculty are viewing these and want to set up a meeting with us for any other group or meetings you're having, we're happy to do that as well and talk more about either survivor services or just the SAFE Office in general. Thank you.
Thank you.